Where attention goes, emotion follows. Happiness does not arrive after perfection. It appears during imperfection, unfinished goals, and completely ordinary Tuesdays.
But what if your future self isn't actually waiting for you to achieve some massive goal to be proud of you? Imagine this scenario for a second. I really want you to just put yourself in these shoes. Finally get that email you've been obsessing over, right?
Oh, yeah, the big one.
Exactly, the big one. Got the promotion, the massive salary bump, that specific title you've been just grinding away for over the last, 5 years.
You're popping champagne.
You pop the champagne with your friends, you celebrate, you go to sleep feeling completely victorious. But then a few weeks later, you wake up, look in the mirror, and realize something really unsettling. You feel exactly the same.
Right, yeah.
Like the exhaustion is still there. The background stress is still there. That underlying hum of daily dissatisfaction, it hasn't budged an inch. And the question is, why?
Because we just fundamentally misunderstand how human joy operates. I mean, we spend decades chasing these monumental shifts, moving across the country, finding the flawless romantic partner, landing that ultimate dream job.
Yeah.
We expect these massive external events to permanently elevate our internal baseline of well-being. But the truth is, the biggest transformations don't actually happen through sweeping life overhauls.
Right. And science tells a completely different and frankly much more empowering story. I am Ethan,
And I am Kate.
and we want to warmly welcome you to our community. If you haven't already, we really suggest you subscribe to the channel so we can keep growing and exploring all these ideas together.
Absolutely.
Welcome to an all-new episode of the Living Better podcast. And for today's episode, we have pulled together an incredibly fascinating stack of sources.
And our overarching mission today is to entirely dismantle that illusion that you need some massive, sweeping life change to find joy. We are going to look at the hard biological data showing how tiny, scientifically grounded decisions actually rewire your brain and your nervous system.
To create sustainable, resilient
Yeah,
happiness.
take us in sustainable happiness.
So let's start by unpacking that opening scenario we talked about, getting exactly what you want and then feeling completely unchanged by it. The research calls this the hedonic treadmill, but I really want to get into the actual mechanism here because understanding the why changes everything. Why does that thrill of a major milestone vanish so predictably?
Well, it really comes down to evolutionary biology. We constantly view this adaptation as a personal failure, you know?
Oh, 100%. Like, what's wrong with me?
Right. We think, I finally bought the house. Why aren't I ecstatic every single morning when I wake up? We assume our brains are broken, but it's not a flaw. It's a highly evolved survival feature.
It's a survival feature. Okay, explain that.
Think about our ancient ancestors. If early humans found a berry bush, ate their fill, and then remained in a state of permanent blissful satisfaction, what would happen?
They just sit there.
Exactly. They would have stopped foraging. They wouldn't have built shelters. They would have just starved to death while feeling completely content.
Wow. So we are literally biologically penalized for lingering on our successes.
We really are. Our nervous systems are strictly designed to return to a baseline state of slight dissatisfaction so that we keep seeking, keep moving, and ultimately just keep surviving.
So when the literature calls it a treadmill, it's literal. We are biologically programmed to run, hit a target, and then immediately adapt to it. It essentially places us right back at the starting line emotionally.
The exact same starting line. The moment you cross the finish line, your brain just repaints a new line 10 miles down the road.
Which is wild. And that brings up the data we saw, right? One of the sources we're looking at today references that famous 1978 Brickman study.
Oh, yes, the lottery study?
Right. Researchers compared the happiness levels of major lottery winners to people who had recently suffered paralyzing accidents. I remember reading this in the notes and it absolutely blew my mind. The contrast just couldn't be more extreme.
It's incredible. You have the ultimate perceived positive event and the ultimate perceived negative event. Yet within about a year, both groups had largely returned to their prior baseline levels of everyday happiness.
It's a year.
Just a year. The lottery winners were not significantly happier than the control groups in the long run, because extraordinary moments, whether extraordinarily good or extraordinarily bad, they eventually just become your new normal.
Because the brain habituates to its environment.
Precisely.
But wait, let me jump in here and push back on this on behalf of the listener. If that's the biological reality, isn't ambition completely pointless?
That's the danger, yeah.
Like if I'm just going to neurologically adapt to my new salary or my new business taking off, why should I bother striving for anything massive? Doesn't this research just encourage us to give up and sit on the couch?
That is such a brilliant question, and it's the exact trap people fall into when they read this research. But no, striving is incredible. Ambition is great for societal progress, for building a comfortable life, and just fulfilling your potential.
Right.
But, and this is the key, you cannot load the heavy burden of your daily joy onto those rare achievements. If you only allow yourself to feel good on the day you graduate or the day you get married or the day you finally sell your company, you are going to be absolutely miserable for the other 99% of your life.
Because those days are like mathematically rare.
Exactly. The data makes it crystal clear. Life is made entirely of ordinary moments, and the biological quality of those everyday, unremarkable moments dictates the actual quality of your life.
Okay, so we are constantly deferring our joy to a future that, biologically speaking, won't deliver the lasting high we expect anyway.
Never.
So if the quality of our ordinary moments is the real battleground here, how do we actually improve them? Especially when, let's be real, everyone listening is already overwhelmed. We can't just magically add more hours to the day.
No, we definitely can't.
But the literature points to an incredibly small, almost laughably simple intervention. A 60-second pause.
Yes.
Literally just a single minute of noticing things.
Yes. Taking 60 seconds to genuinely observe your coffee brewing, to look at the way the light hits the trees outside your window, or taking a single minute to actively breathe before you open a really stressful email inbox.
I have to be honest, I need to challenge this.
Go for it.
For anyone listening who operates in a high-stress, real-world environment, this sounds tough. Like if I am having an absolute disaster of a day and my boss is actively screaming at me over a missed deadline, telling me to, look up at the ceiling for 60 seconds, feels incredibly naive.
Yeah, I hear that.
How is noticing the architecture going to lower my cortisol when my career feels like it's on fire? Our whole lives, we are taught that happiness comes from adding more money, more success. How can doing less for 60 seconds compete with that?
That is a completely fair challenge, because on the surface, it sounds like a flimsy greeting card platitude, right? Like, just stop and smell the roses.
Exactly.
But we need to look at the neurobiology of what is actually happening in your brain when you take that pause. There's a profound difference between having a beautiful life and actually experiencing it. And the happiest people aren't adding anything. They are simply noticing more of what is already there. It's not about ignoring your screaming boss. It's about network switching.
Network switching. Okay, break that down for us.
Okay, so when you are ruminating about your terrible boss, stressing about a deadline, or agonizing over some mistake you made yesterday, your brain is operating in what neuroscientists call the default mode network, or DMN.
The DMN. Got it.
You can think of the DMN as the brain's internal simulator. It is highly active during stress. It's where we worry, obsess over the past, and catastrophize about the future.
So the default mode network is essentially the anxiety engine of the brain.
Precisely. It's an anxiety engine. But here's the biological hack, the actual how behind the advice. The brain has a competing network called the task-positive network, or TPN.
Okay, and what does the TPN do?
The TPN is engaged when you're heavily focused on the present moment, specifically through direct sensory input. Observing a physical detail, feeling the temperature of the air on your skin, or actively listening to a specific sound.
I'm guessing these two networks don't play nicely together.
They are completely mutually exclusive. They operate like a seesaw.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, when the TPN turns on to process sensory data, the DMN physically has to power down. It cannot run simultaneously.
So they literally can't be on at the same time.
Right. So when the research suggests taking 60 seconds to look up, it isn't giving you poetic advice. It is instructing you to use sensory data to force your brain to switch off the anxiety network. It is a literal biological override.
That is wild.
You are interrupting the trance of modern, loud life. It grounds you in the right now rather than worrying about the future.
That makes so much more sense. It's a
Yeah.
physiological circuit breaker. You're forcing the brain out of the simulator and into the physical room. But what about the underlying mental chatter? Because breaking the circuit for a minute is fantastic, but my brain defaults right back to asking, why is my life so exhausting? Or why am I failing at this? How do we deal with that internal narrative once the 60 seconds are up?
Well, the internal questions we ask ourselves are the next critical piece of the puzzle. And this is where the research into the reticular activating system, or RAS, comes into play. You can conceptualize the RAS as the bouncer at the door of your conscious mind. At any given second, your senses are taking in millions of bits of information, right? Sounds, colors, physical sensations, background conversation.
Sounds way too much.
Exactly. If your conscious brain tried to process all of it at once, it would completely melt down. So the RAS filters out about 99% of it just to save cognitive energy.
Wow, 99%.
Yeah. And how does it decide what specific information to let through the door? It listens to the instructions you give it. It listens to the questions you ask yourself.
So if I'm walking around unconsciously asking, like, why is everything always going wrong for me?
Your RAS hears that and says, okay, our priority right now is finding evidence of things going wrong. It will tirelessly scour your environment and highlight every minor inconvenience.
Just serving up all the negativity.
Totally. It will make sure you heavily focus on the rude driver in traffic, the slight ache in your lower back, and it actively blocks out positive data because it doesn't match the parameters of your search query.
Right.
It's like when you buy a red car and suddenly you see red cars everywhere.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
They were always there, but your filter changed.
So it physically blocks data that doesn't align with our negativity. That is terrifying. It means we are actively colluding in our own misery just based on our default question.
We really are.
But it's also incredibly empowering, right? Because it means we can hack the bouncer.
Yeah.
We can just change the instructions.
Precisely. This is why the sources strongly advocate for asking radically different daily questions. Instead of that default negative loop, what happens if tomorrow morning you consciously ask, what's one thing that went really well today? Or who made my life better this week?
Or what is something beautiful I almost overlooked?
Exactly. By asking that, you are literally reprogramming the RAS to hunt for positive data. The circumstances of your day haven't changed at all. The rude driver still exists. The stressful email is still sitting in the inbox.
Your bank account looks exactly the same.
Right. But your attention has shifted. You've installed a completely different lens. And in psychology, there is a fundamental rule where attention goes, emotion follows. You do not need a completely different life. You just need a different lens through which to view the life you already have.
Where attention goes, emotion follows. That is such a vital distinction. And, once you change that internal lens, it naturally collides with how you perceive the people around you. Which leads us to some of the most compelling research in our notes today, the biology and sociology of human connection.
Yes. This is an area where our cultural assumptions are consistently wrong. We're taught that social fulfillment only comes from deep, lifelong friendships, massive social events, or intense romantic partnerships.
Like having hundreds of online followers or best friends since kindergarten.
Exactly. But sociological studies on what are called weak ties prove otherwise.
Let's define that really quick. Weak ties being like the barista at the coffee shop, the person you nod to at the gym, the coworker you only ever see in the hallway.
Exactly. The acquaintances. The tiny, real interactions, a genuine smile, making eye contact, learning a name, or just checking in on someone. The research shows that these micro interactions are disproportionately responsible for our daily sense of belonging and our overall well being.
Wow.
Think about the recent global lockdowns. When we lost our weak ties, even people who were quarantined with their spouses experienced profound, crushing loneliness.
Why? I mean, why does a fleeting interaction with a total stranger matter so much to our actual nervous system?
Again, we look to our evolutionary programming. Humans don't just survive through connection, we thrive through it. For early humans, isolation meant certain death. Being acknowledged by the tribe, even in passing, signaled safety from predators.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
So when you make eye contact and share a positive micro moment with someone today, your brain registers that primitive signal of safety. It immediately releases oxytocin.
And oxytocin is the bonding hormone.
Yes. And crucially, oxytocin physically inhibits the release of cortisol, which is the stress hormone. When that oxytocin hits, your heart rate slows down, your blood pressure drops, your immune system even gets a tiny boost.
That's incredible.
It physically signals to your body that you belong and you are safe. Emotionally, these tiny moments are enormous.
It's just astounding that a 30-second conversation at a grocery store checkout is literally acting as a neurochemical intervention. And we have to remember, it goes both ways. It's not just about extracting oxytocin for ourselves to lower our own stress. It's about empathy.
Deeply so. We have to gently remind ourselves and operate under the baseline assumption that almost everyone we walk past is fighting an invisible battle.
That is a crucial point to remember. Like stress, anxiety, self-doubt. We see these highly curated, polished versions of people in public or online. But underneath, there is an epidemic of loneliness and quiet desperation. We never really know what the person next to us in line is carrying.
Which means that your 60 seconds of focused, genuine interaction, just truly seeing someone, asking how they are, and treating them with warmth, could literally be the brightest part of their entire day.
Yeah.
You are actively altering their nervous system too. Happiness is unique because it actively grows when it is shared. It doesn't deplete.
So if the barrier to entry is really so low, if it just takes switching our network to the present via sensory input, reprogramming our internal bouncer with better questions, and engaging in these weak tie connections, why are we all so stubbornly resistant to it? Why do we stay perfectly miserable on their emotional treadmill?
Because of a deeply ingrained cultural virus, perfectionism. We treat happiness like a VIP room that we aren't allowed to enter until we have completely met the dress code.
Oh yes, the illusion of once the dust settles, I'll be happy when.
Yes.
We tell ourselves, once my schedule is perfectly optimized, once I get that promotion, once I lose 15 pounds, once my kids are perfectly behaved, then I will permit myself to feel joy.
We put our actual lives on layaway. But the research unequivocally dismantles this. It shows that happiness does not arrive after perfection. It appears during imperfection. It lives in messy kitchens, difficult seasons, unfinished goals, and completely ordinary Tuesdays.
Perfection is a mirage. It doesn't exist.
Exactly. If you wait for a frictionless life before you allow yourself to be happy, you will wait until you die, because friction is the defining characteristic of being alive.
You can find profound joy in a messy kitchen while cooking a chaotic dinner. I was reading through the source materials, and there's a really powerful anchoring technique to combat that exact perfectionist paralysis.
Yes, the anger question.
Right. When you catch yourself deferring your life to that mythical, flawless future, you force yourself to stop and answer one specific question. What is good about this exact moment? Not what's going to be good next year, not when the project is finished, just this specific, imperfect moment.
That question is brilliant because it forces you out of the DMN simulator and back into reality. You might be exhausted, the kitchen might be a disaster, but the coffee is warm.
Yeah.
Your kid is healthy. The sunlight is coming through the window. It is about building the emotional capacity to hold stress and gratitude simultaneously.
They are mutually exclusive.
No, not at all. This moment, right now, is the only place life actually happens.
That idea holding stress and gratitude simultaneously, is really the foundation of everything we've looked at today. If you're listening to this right now and you are feeling completely overwhelmed by the massive gap between where you are and where you want to be, we really want to leave you with a profound sense of relief.
Definitely. I want to reassure you that you do not need a dramatic breakthrough today. You don't need a flawless 10-step plan, and you certainly don't need to try and morph into a completely different person by next Monday. The intense pressure to completely overhaul your life is exactly what keeps you paralyzed on that treadmill.
So here's our challenge to you, based entirely on the data. Pick just one small change today. Not 10, not 20, just one.
Just one.
Choose to have a slower morning, or force a network switch by taking a deeper breath and noticing physical details. Or consciously reprogram your reticular activating system with a grateful thought before you go to sleep. Or lean into a weak tie connection with a kind word or a phone call you've been meaning to make.
Because days inevitably become weeks, and weeks become years. Thousands of these tiny, seemingly insignificant decisions eventually compound. They build your entire life.
Before we wrap up, I want you to consider something we didn't explicitly touch on in the data today, but that naturally emerges from all this research. We've talked so much about reaching destinations and achieving goals. But what if your future self isn't actually waiting for you to achieve some massive goal to be proud of you?
Oh, I love that.
What if they are just hoping that you'll finally pause, take a breath, and actually enjoy the messy, ordinary Tuesday you are living right now? What if arrival is just a skill, the practiced ability to be fully present wherever you currently are?
That completely shifts the paradigm. It makes peace a daily practice rather than a distant pride.
Exactly. Thank you so deeply for giving us your time and your attention for today's episode. If this conversation brought you value, or if you know someone who might be carrying an invisible battle and really needs to hear this data today, please share this with them. We are incredibly grateful for this community.
The scenery you've been running toward has been beautiful all along. You just have to step off the treadmill and look up.
Well said. Small changes create big happiness. See you in the next episode.